Hey guys, this is Dwight with the Gatsby Group, and I wanted to show you our new place we're closing on in 2 days. We just signed the paperwork today. It is actually Sunday, August 17th, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this deal to hopefully bring you some motivation on what maybe you can do in your area. First thing I want to point out is obviously it needs some work. Now, a lot of work has been done on this property. The T111, a lot of it was replaced. Windows have been replaced. A lot of the inside, which maybe I'll get some B-roll or we'll go in and talk about it, has already been remodeled. There's a lot of kitchen work still to do. We have some ideas for that. I'll discuss it. But what I really want to talk about here is the acquisition side, because I understand that it's hard to do this stuff. People talk about how this is so easy, anybody can do this, but there's money involved and strategy and paperwork, and there's a lot more to it than that. It does take knowledge. So whether it's partnering with somebody or partnering so you can learn, or you just go out there and learn as much as you can. Today we have ChatGPT, so that's really helpful when it comes to contracts and things like that. But that being said, here's what I want to point out. This place is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. I already lose some buyers in that kind of range. We were considering turning it into a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, but the prices were all over the place from contractors. I couldn't nail anybody down on something we thought we could trust that would work, so we just left that alone. We renegotiated the price. Now, the price we ended up acquiring the property for is $217,500. One of the reasons this is happening is it's just been so long. It's been 13 years. They've been remodeling piece by piece, trying to get this done. They don't live up here. It makes it more complicated. Someone else who was working on the property I feel like was overcharging them, a handyman, and it just never quite got finished. It's close, but to be honest, from the exterior, it's lipstick on a pig, right? I think I could put way less money into it and sell it and keep it kind of like this, but I don't think that's going to help it sell quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and do a lot more work to this. But here's the deal. So I acquired this property, $217,500. I know another fix and flipper would have come in here and it would have been $200, $190, somewhere in that range, especially in the risk in the market that we have today with interest rates where they're at. So you got to be careful. Now, I feel like I kind of overpaid for this a little bit, but here's why. I convinced the owner to owner finance the property to me. They owned it outright. So I told them, hey, if you don't want this just to sit on the market, if you don't have the extra cash to continue throwing in here and try to finish it, I told them you can make more money than I'm going to make on this place. You're into it for a lower amount. Why don't you finish it up? The reality is they're just not going to. So I told him, with your carrying costs you have, how about we make your property tax go away, your insurance go away, and maybe collect a little bit of interest if this takes a little longer than I think. And he was open to that idea. So the owner is carrying the financing. The first 4 months are no payments and no interest accruing. Okay, so I don't even pay interest or begin to start to accrue any interest until December 14th, 2025. And it's August right now. That gives me time to get this thing finished and get it on the market. All right, after that point, it's 6% interest, which is just below the market interest rate. But since I'm overpaying him a little up front, I'm kind of building some interest into that for him for carrying this. But it also puts me in a position where I have some risk that I can tolerate, but I don't want to get too risky in this. Here's what I mean by that. What if the market implodes? We're at a point right now where interest rates are very high 6s, touching 7s, bouncing in that zone. The Fed might drop rates, but even if a 0.75% drop, that's not going to change the situation that everybody's in right now. The market is very unaffordable. So I have to play that game. But we have a balloon payment in 3 years. That was the deal. We started off way higher than that because of the last recession we had. And he negotiated it down to 3 years. So my earnest money deposit I said, okay, we're going to put $1 into this for earnest money. So I want you to think about this. I literally put $1 into this property for the acquisition side. I did the paperwork. I had my contracts. I ran them through ChatGPT to update everything with new California regulations, anything that's in there, the seller financing paperwork. I was the real estate agent. I'm not an agent, but I played that part. I did everything in this transaction. So it saved him the time, the money. There was an extra vehicle that was up here. The HOA doesn't allow that to be there. If that got towed, that was going to be a big problem for the owner of that SUV. So I helped him get rid of that SUV to solve both of their problems. Pace Morby would say, finding the bunnies, finding the problems and helping them solve them. And they decided to go with me to take on this project because of all of that. So if you look at this deal structure, now something else I got to mention, I put in there, I'm going to pay the closing costs. That was another deal. It's about $3,600, $3,700 for the closing costs since we don't have real estate agents. And when I go to sell this, I might have real estate agents. I don't know yet. We'll see what happens. But the point is, that's a couple $1,000s that's going to come out of my pocket. Now, what I decided to do to make this more reasonable for everybody else who might be in a situation where they feel like, but I don't have any money or whatever, I went and borrowed that money from someone else. The remodel costs, the $50,000 I planned, we're going to be very close to budget. We'll see. I plan to use to finish this place up. I'm going to take some of that to pay the closing costs, but it may push us over budget and I might have to come out a few $1,000s in the end. We'll see what happens with that. But the point is, that means I'm acquiring this property for $1. Think about that. So what I want you to know is it is possible. These are out there. Less so here in California where I'm at, in Northern California, outside of Sacramento, kind of between Tahoe and whatnot. There's less of these out here, as you might see in Mississippi and Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina. There's a lot more opportunity out there, I believe, for this type of deal to come up. People have owned their homes a lot longer. They didn't have as much turnover. So you may have a lot more opportunity than me, but some of that's networking. It's letting people know, hey, here's what I'm doing. Let me know if you come across something. Let me know if you know someone who wants to sell their property or whatever. But in the meantime, it's learning how to put these deals together. If you have to partner with a top tier transaction coordinator, they're in Pace Morby's group, I'd highly recommend that. I didn't use that on this end of the transaction. I didn't really need that, but I may need it on the future end of the transaction. So we'll see what happens, what type of situation I run into when I go to sell this. Now, there's more to it. You have to comp your market out. What's this property really worth? It's harder to do in the country like this. This is a 2-acre property up here. There's a private airport right up the street. It's all part of this community, private lakes and all that. So it's a unique property, but it's still hard to value a property like that. So we think we're going to get around $273 a square foot, which puts us around $360,000. I think that's fair, but we got to make this place look nice. But I wanted to share that with you to show you what is possible. Instead of taking my cash and dumping it into this, I'm going to lose a little bit on interest because I'm going to pay some interest to this person. But all my cash, we put inside our Amazon store. We're growing this Amazon store, just going just phenomenal. That's great. And I thought, well, I don't want to pull the money out. How do I pull this together? I borrowed some other money to do this. And I thought, what a great opportunity to share this with others so they can see you can put together a deal like this and make something work. So I hope that gets you excited. I'll try to put together more and more videos as we go. Maybe today I'll shoot some more, make some separate videos, and put together kind of the whole project of what we're working on. And you can watch me go through it and flip this and see if we make any money. The number one thing investors run into with fix and flips is they run out of capital. If that's your issue and you need capital to acquire the property and to rehab the property, head over to my website. We're partnered with a great private money group. They have competitive rates and they'll fund not only the acquisition, but the repair costs. Go to thegatsbygroup.com, click on services. then property funding. There's a PDF there you could download and look at all the products and send it to your friends. All right, so I want to show you something with the front side of this house. One of the first things we need to do is move this front door. First off, it looks like a back door, but it's actually a front door. And it's in a very awkward place. If I throw in some B-roll, or maybe I'll take you inside in another shot, and you see where this door opens up, it's right in the center of the living room, where maybe a couch is on this side, or even if the couch is on the other side, it's a very awkward spot. We got to move this door. So we're moving this door into this corner. We're gonna seal off part of this window, put some plywood here because we're redoing the whole outside with hardy board and batten. But we're gonna put a nice huge door here, probably single 36 with 2 side lights on the side. That's what we're shooting for. We'll see what we find price-wise. So fill this in. Potentially on the back side, we'll do, well, it depends. Maybe we want to leave it open for whoever's gonna buy this, but we were thinking on the back side of this wall to do some rock all the way up to the roof and kind of make that the place you put your TV, because the windows here, the couch would be far back against the wall looking out these windows. But we don't know yet. We haven't quite decided, but we think that that is really, really important. Fascia board here has some weird stuff going on. We're going to replace that. And let's get a shot of the roof next. I want to show you the skylights and why we think we need to replace those. Something we noticed here right away were these skylights. They're really old. They're from the 70s. They don't leak. The roof's actually in good shape, but they look like they're going to leak. So they got to go. We're going to update them with probably the Velux brand, but these are a little smaller. So we'll just have to find some that are a little bit shorter, but we're going to have them remove some of these shingles, put the new ones on. We want to remove that up there is actually the old chimney piece that has to come out, and just recover that back up. But we're going to put all new gray or black, we'll see, another layer of shingles over here so it looks brand new. That's going to be a bit of a pain and a little bit of a cost here, but I think for about $11,000 plus the cost of these 2 skylights, we'll be able to get it done. Next, we have this deck. Now this is actually fairly new. Everything's redwood. I don't like the stain color, this kind of orange tone. We're going to re-stain, or maybe with a really thick bare decking paint. We're going to redo this, probably a deep, rich brown, since the house is going to be turned into a more creamy tone. So probably a deep, rich brown on this whole thing. And down below, we're thinking about taking some of our leftover cuts from here and finishing around the bottom edges, so you don't just see under here. Maybe a bear or skunks or raccoons don't end up under there. But that's the idea with the deck. It's pretty good size. Unfortunately, the door will be right here by the stairs. We had thought about extending the stairs, but there's an AC unit over here. We didn't want to pay to move that because we're actually adding another one of those on the back side. That's already going to cost us a good $4 to $6 grand to have everything installed and buying the equipment. Here's the other side of the house. This is where we're going to add the addition. So the 3rd bedroom with the 2nd bath, make a nice big master bedroom here. 20 by 20 likely structure off the side here, single story. And it wouldn't be too bad to do. It's just the permitting and the time to get it done. I don't think that works for us. The pricing didn't work. Like I said, it was all over the place. But if I had time, I'd be able to sit down and really find a contractor to make that work. So someone who's going to buy this and live here, they can find a contractor, add on an addition. Behind over here, I'll try to get a shot of this, there's a nice other flat area where you can add a 2nd home or make it the main home and keep this as a 2nd home, because in this county, you can have a granny flat up to 1,600 square feet. This is 1,315 square feet, which means you could build a 3,000 square foot home over here, keep this as the granny flat, in-law quarters, anything like that. You could also have a 400 square foot cabin without a kitchen facilities. So you could have a wet bar. So there's a lot of opportunity at this property, but this is where we were gonna do that. But now we're just gonna hardy board and batten this whole side where that window is right here. This guy is actually where our door was going to go into the master. So for now, we'll leave it. We were thinking about adding a door there with some stairs going up, but I think we're going to leave it alone and point that out that, hey, if you ever go to add an addition to this home, there's the door right into the master. So it works out great. We're not going to do that. We're going to keep it a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, try to unload it and move on. Always keep an eye on this fascia board here. See how it's rotting out. Eventually there's going to be a home inspection. And most of this is actually pretty good. Really, this piece, which we're replacing up front. But on the back side, it's splitting too. So we'll probably have to replace that entire back one there. Yeah, this one just needs to be scraped, sanded a little bit and painted. But same thing on the other side. That's important because as soon as there's a home inspection, when someone's financing this property, that's the first thing they're gonna find. They're gonna go jam a screwdriver in there and say we need to replace it. So I just wanna get it done so we don't run into any issues. This deck here, we're gonna rip off because this door is gonna go away once we swap out this front door. I'll show you more about that in a minute. Welcome inside. Right now, the camera's positioned over by that window I said that was gonna be a door for the old master bedroom idea we had. But you can see coming in here, there's a decent amount of space. This is about 16.5 feet, but that door opens up in the worst place possible. When you start looking how you would structure your furniture, where you would actually have your dining table, this whole corner is just this empty, unusable space. It's weird. And if someone wanted to put their couch here with their TV here, that just doesn't work. But you also have stairs here. So depending on how your couch runs, how do you access the stairs easily? In a small space, it's hard to figure out how you're going to structure everything so there's some flow within the house. So that's why we want to take that door, put it over closer to that corner, and we think having it swing in like that will leave this entire space open for people to choose what they want to do, whether it's putting your TV on this wall or running some stone up this wall like a faux electric fireplace or something here, because you don't need a fireplace here anymore, a real one. That all got tore out. You don't need it here because we have an entire AC mini split system. This one will actually do the whole house, but we're going to add some in the back to do those 2 bedrooms. Otherwise, I feel like it would get pretty hot. And I think it's a great selling point to get this home unloaded. But let's go take a look at the kitchen and I'll show you what our new plan is. All right, it's not a big kitchen. So we're going to have to make what we can out of this. But we have a bit of a dilemma here. This sink is nowhere near center on this window. It's a big window. That's great. But we're trying to figure out how do we center this without having to add a new cabinet, because these are nice cabinets. These are real wood. They're great. But matching the cabinet door becomes kind of a pain, just to buy one 15-inch box and throw it in there. It's going to be tough. So we decided, what if we rearrange these? So here's what we're thinking. We're going to disconnect all these, move the sink over. We're going to take this one, that's 15 inches, and there's a 3-inch piece right here. We're going to put that one there. It will push this over to where it's like a 1/2 inch off. But we can place that sink center here. There's enough of a gap here where you can still open the drawers. This is going to go away. We have a different one from LG we're going to put there. But these cabinets, because you notice there's no dishwasher. I find that to be pretty important in today's age. So we're going to move these here. We're going to put those on this side. We'll have a little bit of room, 10 inches or so. We're trying to figure out what to do there. We're thinking about putting like the wine bottle deals. That'll cut some down. And we have some other ideas as well. And there's another reason we're doing that, which I'll show you this washroom here in a second. That's where the washer and dryer and the water heater are, and kind of why we feel like we have to do it that way. But once we bump this down, we'll be able to slide a dishwasher in here. We'll do some other sort of small drawer here because it's hidden behind the refrigerator, and that'll give us a little bit of a gap, and then the refrigerator will be right here. So it'll actually come in a little bit. We're not going to have this above the refrigerator anymore. We're going to come up with a different plan, but that actually would fit great right here. So we're thinking about moving that over there because we've looked at a bunch of different microwaves. We tried finding the slim microwaves, and they do not fit here. This is not very big. And if your microwave hangs down to here, it just doesn't work. So that's unfortunate. We're not going to swap that with this. What we're thinking about doing is moving that over here. That way a microwave fits under it. And right now they have a deal with LG. If we get 4 items, which would be the stove, the dishwasher, we have a new refrigerator coming, and that microwave, we basically get a nice microwave for free. Today, my goal is to take the countertop off, start unhooking these cabinets, and potentially playing around with them to see, is this really going to work out before we start doing anything else here? Because I need him, my contractor, fill this in, and then let me show you why on this side we think we have to do it that way. So, unfortunately, in a small space here, this is how it has to be. There's no way around it. We've looked at a couple different ways we could do this, but we think the best way, this is actually decently deep, so we could bump this back. There's no electrical in this part of the wall. We can just bump this back because you can't fully get to the washing machine here. That's kind of dumb. So we just want to simply shift this down some. That should give us enough room that when we run that cabinet all the way against the wall, right, it has a wall here, instead of putting the refrigerator, which actually is further, then it starts to get weird. Luckily, these doors don't have the extra like 3 or 4 inches when you open them. So in theory, it could work, but it would be very awkward. It would look better when you walk in the front door and you see that nice refrigerator here and all that. I get it. But unfortunately, what we'd have to do is there's a wall in here. We'd have to punch that out and push it this way. Once you start adding in those costs, it becomes not worth it. We could shrink the door here and do a stackable washer and dryer, right? Which was an option we looked at. But then, even with a nice wide door, how do you get to the water heater when you need to? You have to try to pull this out. It gets very awkward. So we think the best option is just simply bump this down some, run the cabinets to the end. That'll make it easy. This could be a microwave station, or maybe we do take that one, stick it over there, and take that one and stick it over here. We got options. That's my point. But that's without having to buy very much for cabinets or drawers that have to match what's already here. So that's what we're shooting for, because that gets really hard, right? We want it to look like everything's new. And by the way, all the faces are off these because right now my wife is working on getting these prepped because we're going to paint them. We figure with this, there's very, very little wood grain holes. We can fill this pretty easily, sand it down nice, and we're going to spray all that. Same thing with the frames. We're going to spray those and kind of a creamy tone white, because these walls, it's all Sherwin-Williams. I think it's agreeable gray, she said. So we think that tone will go well. And for all the countertops, we have a company coming in to put them down, got a killer deal. We're going to probably do engineered stone, which actually costs a little more than granite, but my wife likes that better. And it's a little cleaner. There's less going on, but we're going to do the entire backsplash with it and the countertop so it matches, because this gets very expensive to do. And that, we don't think that looks good. Someone might think it looks good, but we don't think it looks good. We believe they should have staggered it. If they did that, maybe we would have kept it. But we're going to go ahead and rip that out. It was such a good deal to put this granite in, you guys. So we decided, yeah, we are going to redo this kitchen because it's not going to cost us a lot to do this. And for whoever's buying this property, think about it. We're giving them brand new washer and dryer, refrigerator, dishwasher, range, microwave, we're going to market it as all free appliances for purchasing, something along those lines. But we've budgeted it out. We have everything in our cart kind of scheduled out to see, when we're going to start buying compared to, our roofing, things we got to get done. And we're still on track for that budget. I'm just thinking we're going to run into some other stuff with electrical as we, move that door. We'll have to move a little bit of electrical, a little bit of plumbing work. Maybe I'll do some of that. We'll see. But I'm sure there'll be some other electrical we'll have to move around, which will add up. So I'm sure we'll be over budget a tiny bit, but we'll see what happens with it. But you see the idea. This is kind of that planning phase of how we're going to structure this. And hopefully it works out good. If you're doing wholesale real estate and you flip your paper to a fix and flip investor, but they're telling you they're out of capital, so they can't buy your deal, send them to my website. We have a fantastic partner. They have competitive rates. They're lending on the acquisition and the repair costs. And they don't stop there. So go to my website, thegatsbygroup.com, click on services, property funding, and there's a PDF there. Forward it to all your fix and flippers and start closing more deals. So here's what it looks like from the corner where the door is going to be. So that camera, picture yourself opening that front door and looking sort of diagonal where you can see into the kitchen and everything. I know the camera doesn't have as wide a vision as we do, but you should, when you walk in this door, kind of see everything. There's very high vaulted ceilings, same thing in the bedrooms too, which make it feel a lot bigger than it really is. Most people come in here and they think, wow, how big is this? 1,500 square feet, 1,600? No, it's 1,300 square feet. So it's kind of a nice setup. Got some skylights up here that we're going to keep. It really helps out with the lighting in here without turning a single thing on. So we like that. But rails, those do not meet code. They have to be a lot taller and you can't raise them. Well, the bottom part of those specific ones you can't raise. They'll be too tall. Kids can crawl under. So those got to go. Railing here. Railing, we're going to have the contractor install. We're running into a bit of a situation as these stair treads. We're going to try and stain them instead of sealing them all off and trying to do LVP up here. I mean, it's so expensive. It's just not worth it. So I think what we're going to do, we kind of have some flooring picked out. It's actually a laminate that's water resistant, but it's a great neutral tone. We have one of these out right now because we're staining on the backside to see if we could match that flooring pretty well. So it'll tie in with that, but be real wood. And we're probably gonna have to paint these stringers. It's nice redwood, but it ain't gonna stay in the same color. So we're gonna have to paint these, but still leave this open here so it feels a lot bigger because we do have the pantry right there. You could add a small closet over here because this is a very awkward, big space in there. Right on the other side of that's the bathroom. We think this is going to be a great selling point. So we need to clean up these edges, make it look as nice as you can when you walk into that front door. Because we want you to see the kitchen, the dining, the living, just everything in just one shot when you walk in here. We really think that'll help sell the home. Let's head on into the bathroom here. You can see this is an awkward space. It's actually 13 feet all the way to that wall. So you could add a little closet on the back end of here for some storage, but we don't plan on doing that. Actually, we could stick something from IKEA right here. That could work too. This may be a little fish-eyed because I had to zoom out. But I want to get in this bathroom here. See if I can get the camera around. So this was already remodeled. It's pretty nice. Everything's finished. Maybe a little seal on the grout there would be great. See if I could adjust this camera down a little bit. It has a nice vanity here, real wood. There is a brand new toilet outside here, although it's the same one as that, so we're just gonna keep it. But we do have to move some of this lighting. We're trying to get it all centered because we're gonna add 2 different mirrors here. Home Goods, we're gonna find something good at Home Goods, but we gotta move that outlet over some because it would be behind a mirror. There's some things like that we gotta play with. But at least the bathroom was already redone. It has some decent tile down. Since these are small spaces, usually you can find a killer deal on just some leftover tile somewhere. So that's what they ended up doing. But that's the bathroom. They have this barn door here. which we're gonna keep. Originally, we were gonna knock that wall out so it goes straight into the kitchen if we're gonna do this as a 3-bedroom and then put a normal door here. But we're just gonna go ahead and leave this one alone. Maybe we'll stain it, maybe we'll paint it, but it's gotta stay there. And we gotta figure out what we're gonna move with this electrical. And we have a brand new, really nice pellet stove here that can hook on a thermostat, but we're just gonna sell this as it won't be needed. And we'll just throw it back into the cost of remodel. All right, we're gonna have a bit of a fisheye still. We came upstairs. Here's bedroom number 1. Great little view out here. That's looking down where we wanted to add the addition. But you can see out there where you can build the other home. Way out there if you wanted to do that. But nice high vaulted ceilings here. Again, makes it feel a lot bigger. Something we want to take out. This had the old electric baseboard heater. So we're going to rip that out, finish in some sheetrock, and then once we put our flooring down and put down the baseboard, you won't see that anymore. Let's go down to the other room. These has brand new doors and everything already here. One of them needs to be adjusted. But again, they're identical rooms. I believe they were 13.5 by 12.5, so decent size. See the garage out there. Some trees I got marked right there. Those got to come down for fire insurance. But that's it. Let's take a look out this window up the driveway. Nicely paved driveway all the way down to the road down there, which is very expensive. So I'm glad we don't have to do anything there. The garage is also included in this and getting painted, but there's a roof panel we got to have fixed too. New fans. That's great. Well, from here you kind of see again what it would look like once you put a couch kind of down in this zone. It just does not work to have that door there. And the stairs, we're going to cut one of those stringers off, or cut a section, a step, and move it in, because what it was doing, it was making that landing way longer than it needs to be. And that's another thing we need to figure out with that landing is, do we just copy the flooring and put it up there, or do we find some of this wood, pull out that piece of plywood and try to nail it down to make it more level? I don't know. That's a bit of a project we got to figure out. But I just wanted to point out kind of the idea again with that front door and why we got to do it. We'd love to put the front door there so it's facing the driveway and extend the deck, but that would eat into profit so much. It's just not worth it. Well, that's all I got for now. I'm going to go ahead and work on some of this stuff. I got to shut the water off, start unhooking all this, see how far we can get with some of that. It's not supposed to be a big production day. I hope you'll follow us on this journey. I'll do my best to post some of this. I'm very busy with a lot of other stuff, so some things might come 2 weeks from now or a week from now. We'll see. It takes time to edit these things. I'm also an accountant. I have other areas in real estate that I work in for investments. I got my Amazon store, so I got a lot of other stuff to do, but I thought this would be great to create some content for you on a project that I'm actually working on, and to show you that you can acquire properties as long as you understand creative finance. If this is on my YouTube, I may or may not put this on YouTube. This may go in my private investment group. We'll see. Some episodes might. But if this is on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. And I'll put this in one of the playlists separate from the business side of the YouTube that we're building right now. That way you can follow along and get some updates and see how this plays out, see if we make some money or not.